The entirety of last year I kept a running favorites list on Letterboxd, where at the end of each month I picked 5 of the best movies that I watched that month, and I just slowly ranked them as the year went on. I thought I would talk about the top 20 films I loved the most this year. I'm sure arguments could be made about what are the actual technically best films of the year. These are the ones I love the most, and we are different people. So if you're looking at this list and you're wondering why the Decoy Bride is so high, I don't know what to tell you, other than the fact that I loved it. Anyway, starting it off at number 20 is a movie I feel like I probably don't even want to be touching with a 10-foot pole right now, just because the online discourse around it has been ridiculous, and I don't want to get involved in the Oscars discourse, okay? But I am including Barbie on my best of list. First of all, because it's been there since I watched the film. Second of all, because I watched it 4 times and genuinely loved it each time. It is like a new comfort movie. Third of all, I just genuinely love how that bench scene has not left my mind since I watched the movie. It truly just made the entire film for me. Like, to me, it wasn't just a movie about a toy, it was a movie about literally growing up, and I just genuinely enjoyed it. And speaking of growing up from girlhood to womanhood, number 19 is Pearl. You will simply never see me complaining about a character study of an isolated woman that like slowly turns in to a horrors on the home front type of vibe, and Mia Goth's performance is incredible. So I recognize that this maybe is not a movie for everyone, but it definitely was a movie for me, and I'm very glad I watched it. And following along the maybe it's not for everybody path, we have the Banshees of Inisherin, a story about the allure of dreams that you're afraid you're never gonna live up to in your head, and instead of admitting that fear and working towards what you want anyways, you decide to make that everybody else's problem, because by making it everybody else's problem, you can blame them for your failure if you do fail, instead of admitting the inadequacies in yourself and working harder to overcome them, and hopefully like just, you know, believing in your own dreams. You would rather just succumb to the fear of never achieving them rather than start them. Sign me up. And it has a cute donkey. What more is there to love? Anyways, we are coming to the next one, which is actually another reason I waited a little bit to make this video, because I started this series last year, which is why I'm counting it, even though I finished it this month. So number 17 goes to Lessons in Chemistry. And let me just preface this by saying I'm not the biggest fan of the writing in every episode. I feel like at times it can be very on the nose in a way that is distracting from the actual story in a way. But I am not gonna sit here and pretend like every single episode did not impact me emotionally. I was crying every episode. Like, this show has one of the biggest hearts and packs some of the biggest punches of anything I watched this year. First of all, I already love period piece stories about women having careers in the 50s, the 60s, etc., right? I already love that. But then you add a little neurodivergent flair to it, and I love it even more. Brie Larson did not shy away from the ugliness of certain scenes, and I love what she did with the character of Elizabeth Zott, and I love how this show came together. Like, it was just so good. Anyways, following that up with another limited series, we have Daisy Jones and the Six, which I am honestly still a little bit shocked by, because I feel like it dropped. People talked about it for like a day or two, and then it just disappeared into the void. One of the rare occasions where the adaptation is actually better than the source material, in my opinion. I genuinely love how they added to the addiction storylines. And on top of that, Simone and Bernie, I love that we got to focus on them. I mean, I would have loved to focus on them a little bit more, but I get it, or Daisy Jones and the Six. But if they ever do a spin-off, I hope it is Simone and Bernie related, and I personally just cannot stand here and pretend that Daisy Jones and the Six was not on my Spotify Wrapped. Don't ask. I don't know. I have no explanations. And then following that up, we have The Watermelon Woman, which is a film from the 90s about a black lesbian trying to create a documentary about this character that she's seen in a bunch of old movies. And I just love the journey of her discovering new information about the documentary, and at the same time discovering things about herself and figuring her own life out. It is just a wonderfully 90s movie, and I love it. Anyways, following that up with a very depressing film, we have Happening, which is a movie about a woman in 1960s France trying to have an abortion when abortion is illegal. And I have to be completely honest, it was the scariest horror movie I watched this year, and it's not a horror movie. It wasn't trying to be. Genre's definitely listed as drama. It's a slow film, but that just allows the horror to build up even more. At the same time, it's a very intimate film, and it's just so harrowing and stressful watching her fight to have control over her body. It's a rough journey. I don't want to spoil it, but good luck if you decide to watch it, because it's painful. Continuing along the 1960s French theme though, we have Peppermint Soda, which is about two sisters coming of age, and it's like kind of a year in their life. This is definitely one of those movies that you would describe as vibes over plot, which I am not complaining about because the vibes are impeccable. There is something to be said about just being let in to a character's world for a bit and getting to experience their life just as it goes. You have a younger sister trying to like break free of her older sister's shadow and also at the same time live up to her older sister's shadow, and you have her older sister slowly becoming an activist. The atmosphere of this film is just welcoming, it's warm, it's inviting. It worked its way into my heart and I love it. And I know this next one is gonna sound like a joke, okay? But it is not. You are in fact seeing the Decoy bride sitting quite happily at number 12. I watched this movie 3 times this year. 3 times. Does the plot make a single shred of sense? No. But I pose to you the question, does it have to? It is literally a camp Scottish rom-com where like all the characters are Scottish except for the character that David Tennant plays. Their meet cute is in a haunted toilet. It's enemies to lovers. David Tennant wears a funky little tartan outfit with a fluffy vest. What more could you want? I'm telling you, I laughed at just about every single one of these jokes, and I enjoyed it so much. I was like, I have to show my mom, like she'll love this. She did not love it. I'm sitting there laughing because it's funny. It's a funny movie, and she's there looking at me like, what's happening right now? Never had a more unsettling experience. I have no shame for putting this at number 12, okay? Enjoyable time. 10 out of 10 would recommend. It's not a 10th Doctor pun. That's just, I genuinely recommend this movie. And then if you hate it like my mother, I'm sorry. Anyways, I feel like Chicago ending up on this list is not a surprise to anyone who watched the movie along with me on this channel. I loved this. I loved the entire experience of watching this film. You can literally see in real time as the songs are playing, like me falling more and more in love with it. A satire about the sensationalization of violence, about how the media treats women, the rise and fall of it girls, a song completely dedicated to the PR spin of it all. It's literally if you added murder and musical numbers to All About Eve, which is one of my absolute all-time favorite movies. Okay, there's simply no way I wasn't gonna love this film. And we have now reached the top 10, which I feel like I need to preface this again by just saying this is very loosely ranked. I loved all these films. It's very hard to rank them, especially when you consider how different they are. But number 10 is Shortcomings. I am just so here for a 20-something coming of age with unlikable / very realistic characters in a platonic relationship at the forefront. The dialogue in this just feels so incredibly realistic. The script flows so well. I'm not gonna spoil it, obviously, but I love how the like romantic relationship resolved in this. It was just a very enjoyable watch. First, I'd like to just start this off by saying, did you know that A24 makes and sells zines? I didn't. However, I started hyperfixating on zines this year for some reason, and so I bought these, but I read the zine and I loved it so much. I was like, I have to watch Past Lives now. Like, this is so good. And then I immediately went to watch the movie and genuinely loved it, so I am very glad that A24 just casually has a zine scene happening. It was so heartbreaking watching her reconcile the choices that not just her, but also her parents, you know, the choices that have influenced the direction that her life took, like reconciling that with the other future that could have existed, the multitude of other futures that could have existed. But at the same time, I also felt like it was, in a weird way, life affirming to just see her continually choose her life instead of the possibility of the what if. It's also just a gorgeous film. I love the cinematography. Hello? Well, it works for me. I don't know if it works for Dad, but it works for me. Do I remember what I was saying? No. Anyways, we're just gonna move on to Queen Charlotte, which I watched at the very beginning of last year, I feel like. And that scene of Charlotte crawling under the bed has stayed with me since. It's so good. Here's the thing, right? I gave up on the Bridgerton series after Simon got raped, not to get into the Bridgerton discourse yet again. So I kind of said I was done with Bridgerton after season 1. But then Queen Charlotte came out, and I noticed it centered around my 2 favorite characters from the season of Bridgerton that I did watch, which, to no one's surprise, were Queen Charlotte and Lady Danbury. And this series was them as young women. Like, I was obviously here for it. So despite the whole situation from season 1, I gave Queen Charlotte a chance, and I am so glad I did. It was such an emotional, romantic, painful, and yet heartwarming ride that, I mean, I have no right to say it because I haven't really been watching the Bridgerton series, but I would wager a bet that this is the best series in the entirety of Bridgerton, the Bridgerton world. I just cannot physically imagine a relationship beating this one. Simply, they invented romance. I loved how it touched on like doing what you can with the power that you do have to make the future better for the people that come after you. So good. So good. So if you have not watched Queen Charlotte, like, what are you doing? We needed more episodes. I was not ready to say goodbye to them when it ended. Charlotte and Lady Danbury were just written so well. It just made me so happy. You know, love those shows where you get a little flutter in your heart. Love them. Love them. And did y'all think that Greta Gerwig was just gonna come in at number 20? No. No, because I watched Lady Bird this year and absolutely loved it. Sorry, my camera battery died, so we're just gonna squiggle that around. I don't think that's how it was before, but it is what it is now. The jokes and the humor are so funny to me, and they're funny in a way that doesn't take away from any of the emotional weight of the film. I do not think this movie is ever going to make me not sob. Profusely sob. I watched this movie for the first time on this channel, and I could not see the movie for a good chunk of it because tears were just streaming down my face and blocking my vision. And that's how you know it's a good movie. And at number 6 we have Rye Lane, which is another very relatable, funny movie that also hits emotionally. And when people talk about the rom-com renaissance that we are in, I hope that they say this movie is leading it. This is such a clever, creative, original rom-com. You have 2 people who are trying to get over their exes and move forward, right? They do a little meet cute, and then you essentially have an extrovert adopting an introvert for the entire runtime of this movie as they slowly grow closer and closer together. If you have not watched this movie and you enjoy rom-coms, I think you should just pause this video and go watch this movie. Okay, it's only 80 some minutes. I love the characters, I love the humor, I love all of the editing choices. If you're having a bad day, I think you should just watch this movie if you haven't seen it, and I feel like you will probably end the film grinning from ear to ear. And then moving along to what I still maintain is the funniest movie of the year, we have Bottoms at number 5. I feel like there's not much for me to say about this film because I watched it for the first time on this channel, and I feel like you can physically see every single one of the jokes landing. It's a high school satire that ends with a bunch of cheerleaders covered in blood. I feel like I was one of the people that this movie was made for, and I am very grateful that it exists. And I know humor is subjective, so obviously if you do not share the same humor as me, you probably will not like this film, but I really liked it. Anyways, moving right along from the funniest movie of the year to quite possibly one of the saddest slash most painful movies of the year, we have Pariah. I have not yet recovered from the experience of watching this movie. It is the story of a queer high schooler coming of age in a religious family. It's another one of those films that I feel like is more felt rather than talked about. It's just a very heartfelt coming of age film. She's one of those characters that doesn't even feel like a fictional character. You know, she feels like a real person, and you just want all of the best for her. You want to give her the whole world. I'm not quite sure if this next one actually counts as a limited series or if it's just, you know, a British production from the 90s, but regardless, it is on Letterboxd, and I'm quite glad it is because look at it, ranking number 3. Oh my goodness, what is that? And I know what you're thinking, right? I showed up for David Tennant playing 19-year-old Campbell. Yes, you're right. I showed up for David Tennant, but I stayed for everything else. I feel like this is a better representation of mental health than anything I have seen in this modern era. This will never be leaving my heart. It just simply will not. When it ended, I did not want to leave the world that they had created. So much so that I actually made a mini zine, because that was me attempting to get my mental health back to working order. Truly, we're not questioning the hyperfixation on zines this year. I hope it continues. But here's my mini zine. It says taking over the asylum. The first page says we are loonies and we are proud, with David Tennant's character, Campbell. The background is his famous shirt. He's got like this hoodie with these 4 colors. Then we have I'm not gonna take any more of this crapola, which is obviously a line from the show. Rosalie, I love her. Episode 3 is so important to me. Like, it's just something that can be so personal, you know? Anyways, then the next page is Campbell again, and it says sometimes you have to look someone in the eye and tell them the truth that should be, not the truth that is, which is a quote that Campbell says in the show. By the way, this is about a radio DJ taking over a position at the mental health hospital as their DJ. Like, he's taken over the asylum. That's the title. And so anyways, at the back of the zine, it says, you see this is a smile. And you see this is a wee sparkle in my eye. So basically, I love this show. Could you tell by the zine? Like, I feel like, do I need to describe why I love this show, or does the zine cover it? You would have to pry this show from my cold dead hands, okay? I feel like this is just gonna become a yearly rewatch. I loved all of the characters. They are all near and dear to my heart. It is so relatable, sometimes in unfortunate ways, but it is so relatable. It is so heartfelt. These are just some of the most lovable, realistic, well-written, authentic characters, and not a single one of them is villainized or victimized. Like, they are just allowed to be fully 3-dimensional humans. They're not stereotypes, they're just human. And I love it. I love it so much. I'm sorry, they just simply are not making shows like this these days. Anyways, I have spoken about this film on this channel before. I genuinely love it. It's inspired by a true story where the Welsh miners who are on strike are helped out by the queer activists, and they come together in solidarity and help to amplify both of their voices and their causes. And at the same time, you have like a study of small town bigotry that then leads to acceptance in such a beautiful way. It's so heartfelt. And you guys know I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker, okay, for a feel-good film. I am so glad that this movie exists. It's just such a good one. And are we surprised when my #1 movie of the year is actually not a movie at all, and instead a live-streamed theater performance? Is anyone surprised? Any hands in the audience? You surprised? Seeing a dead audience. Anyways, if you have not heard about this, this is a play starring David Tennant as a man in Germany who slowly becomes a Nazi. And it's a study of how society and the buildup of small, seemingly meaningless choices can impact you as a person as well as the world. It is just such an intense watch. It's a very stripped back and bare set. There are only 3 actors, and apart from David Tennant, the other 2 actors are playing multiple characters each. Their acting abilities, who in their right mind can do that? Like, talent beyond belief. They were switching so quickly sometimes. Because of its simplicity, it made certain things stand out so much more when they decided to actually have something happening. I don't want to spoil it, but there is a scene where book burning occurs, and the way that it's done is so intense. I love when stripped back sets are then used to like emphasize the extremity and the importance of certain scenes. So good. It was so good. The dialogue and the writing of this script is one of my favorites that I've ever seen, that I've ever experienced. I bought the play. I was like, I need to own this script forever and study it because it is so well written. Anyways, oh, that light just hit me right in the eyeball. Anyways, those are the top 20 things I watched this year, or at least they're the top 20 movies and shows that I could log on Letterboxd. I would like, however, to still touch on some of my other favorite things I watched this year, because I would like to just give It's not even an honorable mention because I think Good Omens would actually rank higher than all 20 of these. I can't do this video without talking about Good Omens season 2. It was just so near and dear to my heart. Good Omens by itself is one of my favorite books, and I really did not know where season 2 was gonna go, but somehow it became my favorite season of the two. Like, I loved season 2 so much more than season 1, which is shocking because I loved season 1. I literally have Crowley and Aziraphale. I don't know if you could see this, but I have them on my ears right now from their little like opening walking animation. That really directed the course of the rest of my movie watching experience this year, because then I just dove headfirst into trying to go through Michael Sheen and David Tennant's filmography, which then leads me to Masters of Sex, which absolutely deserves a spot on this list. I was a mess watching that show. I got nothing done. I had to, like, I started it and then I had to finish it. Like, I could not think about anything else other than those characters. I existed solely to watch Bill Masters go through his little character development journey. Here's the thing. Season 1 was an utter masterpiece, and then it just went downhill from there. Season 1 was a masterpiece. Season 3 was a hot mess. I don't know what happened with season 3. I feel like someone told them they need to get more views, and so they decided to like switch up everything, because it went from like a conscientious, slow burn character study of a show starring a woman trying to have a career and a neurodivergent scientist in a time where society wasn't quite friendly towards neurodivergency or women having careers, and, you know, coming together despite the situation surrounding them, and then growing as individual people to randomly in season 3 they were like, do you want romance drama? Do you want to just turn this into a soap opera? Season 3 was a slog. Season 4 did get a little bit better, but then it's like, it ends. It ends in such an unsatisfactory way. The ending had me screaming. It had me scrumped. Betty, our beloved lesbian, the way her story ends, it's just like cut off. We don't know what happened. It's cut off in a bad way. Okay, like what she was going through in that season, not great, not great. And now we never get a resolution of hers. I could talk about this show for hours. I literally really could. And for my own mental sake, I'm gonna just cut myself off right here and only say this. Michael Sheen as Bill Masters is fantastic. I don't know a single damn thing about the real life Bill Masters, and that's okay, because the only valid one is this fictional version. The way it explored toxic masculinity and like the trauma that gets passed on through generations. I loved this show. I loved everything about this show. This show has consumed me, and even though I have finished it, it has not finished with me, okay? And it's still in here. Still in here. Speaking of another show that is still in here, okay? This show isn't even what I would consider good. It's not even what I would consider good. So tell me why I still have a little Phileas Fogg in my brain, living amongst everything else, rent-free in there. It wasn't very grounded, right? And sometimes the writing, you were like, these people have the worst luck and also the best luck that I have ever seen. Everything is like turned up times 10 to the max, and yet you give me a pathetic, scraggly little man played by David Tennant with curly hair, and he won't leave my brain. Where is season 2? I need to feed the Phileas Fogg monster that lives in my brain. Here's the thing, right? The first few episodes were not my favorite, but then I think around like episode 4, it really kicks into gear, and I do actually enjoy the second half of this show. It's just not something I would normally put on my favorites list, but for some reason I love those characters. I love them. Anyways, I'd also like to state that the Heartstopper season that came out, obviously loved that. Loved Isaac's whole storyline. Heartstopper obviously is forever gonna have like a near and dear spot in my heart. And then I would be remiss if I did not talk about the Doctor Who specials, the 3 specials with David Tennant, and then the Christmas special. I loved all of them. I loved them. I'm not gonna spoil anything just in case someone hasn't seen it, but the thing that happened at the end of the David Tennant specials, I do feel like it healed something in me. I feel like it was a very specific hopefulness that is now gonna be bleeding into the show. Also, Sheree was born to be the Doctor. That Christmas special was a bop. I desperately need more musical numbers in my Doctor Who. I am so here for it. It has also, unfortunately, been playing in my head on a loop. Diddly dee you. Hit it, Janice! Anyways, I'm very excited to see where Sheree goes because I think he was born to be the Doctor. Like, he was born to be the Doctor. That's the only thing to say. He captures that whimsy so well, which I was absolutely never one to doubt him, okay, because his acting was easily the best part of Sex Education. I think that's just about everything that I wanted to talk about. Hopefully you guys had some fun with this video. I did not want to go through all 50 some that are on the list because we would just be here all day. And future Jess, if you could write notes each month as you're adding them to your favorites list, if you could write a few notes about what you love the most about the movies and shows, that would be great. Anyways, I hope you guys had some fun watching this video. I hope you guys watched some amazing things this past year, and I hope you guys watch some even more amazing things in this upcoming year. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.